So before we get started, though, and like we do every year, I want to start the day by bringing a patient perspective to this conversation. And actually, we're going to start and end the day in this way today. The reason we're here, the reason we've all traveled and gathered in this room at the end of all of this, is for the benefit of patients with rare cancers. And I'm incredibly happy and proud to have Alan Chankowsky with us today. And many of you may recognize Alan. He was our speaker 2 years ago and came here to really share his story of facing a rare cancer. His talk will be a little bit different today and take a different angle, and I'm really excited to hear it. As many of you in the room know, patients with rare cancers often are the world's experts on that rare cancer. They become experts, scientific leaders in many ways in their rare cancers. Alan takes us to a whole different level. I haven't met a lot of people like Alan who's able to do that, but I'm truly inspired by him, and I learn from him every time we talk to each other. So I'm really pleased to have gotten to know Alan and to call him such a good friend, and want to welcome him to the stage now. So thank you.
Good morning. It's great to be home. TargetCancer Foundation, I feel, is my home away from home. And it really has been quite a ride that I've been on since 2016. I'm going to go through a little bit of my journey and try to explain a little bit about what I needed to do, what I'm currently doing to try to deal with my metastatic disease. So this whole thing started with me back in 2016 when I was diagnosed with stage 4 of terminal salivary duct carcinoma. And I really had to do quite a bit of advocating to receive the treatment that I ultimately received, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But then in 2022, like between 16 and 2022, I was fairly well managed, and I really didn't have any disease to manage beyond what I was being managed with since 2016. But really, things started to ramp up back in a few months ago when progressive disease was determined earlier this year. So from my experience, I've really gained some insights, and I wanted to share some of them with you because I think they're really important. That back in 2016, I really, at the prospect of facing terminal cancer, I really had to do whatever I needed to do to try to survive for as long as possible. And that meant just instinctively knowing that I needed to self-advocate. I needed to do whatever I needed to do to convince my physicians that we needed to do something other than the standard of care. And that's what I ended up doing. Realizing that in the whole advocating process, the importance of understanding the value of scientific research really came to bear, that I realized that the currency of scientific discussions really is found in the data. And we found data with respect to treatment for my cancer and presented that to my treating physician, and we ended up actually using that treatment on the basis of what we discovered for helping myself. And then it became clear that once that treatment began to fail and the metastatic disease was spreading, we needed to address the various other targets, the other drivers of this cancer. And unfortunately, we kind of bumped into some institutional issues where my local oncologist is. And I needed to look outside to a rare cancer clinic for help. So it's not always easy for rare cancer patients to find treatments that are going to be effective in the place where they live. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more later, but it became clear that the dynamics between the patient and the physician are really very, very important, and they could really make the difference between success and failure. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit more, but it's really a major focus of my story in trying to deal with physicians who are willing and wanting to explore various options, but sometimes aren't able to do so. And yet there are other physicians who are just very much so in the traditional mindset and are very challenging to deal with, shall we say. So the key takeaway here is that modern cancer care really depends on the partnership between the patients and their physicians. And it's a cornerstone of my story. Some of the challenges that I found was that physicians, not all of them, but a good chunk of them still are resistant to change from traditional ways of managing disease to the more modern ways of managing disease. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal when someone has a rare cancer and they know they need different type of care than what's being offered. So that's a major, major challenge. The other issue is the limitation of access to CGP. It's still not available to the extent where it needs to be, and it's very, very unfortunate. In the metastatic setting, when there are multiple drivers that need to be dealt with, the issue becomes that there's a strong possibility of the need to have multiple drugs to address the multiple drivers. And that is a major barrier for many, many patients and many physicians who want to prescribe it but can't for a variety of reasons, including institutional concerns. And then there are major gaps in collaboration. When a patient wants to do something and the physician wants to do something else, it's a problem. So the major issue here is overcoming these challenges. Let's get some water, hang on, sorry. The major issue is overcoming these challenges. And one of those challenges I talked about earlier was the patient-physician dynamic. This is a major, major challenge. When I was thinking about this, it became clear that there are a range of different personalities of patients and a range of personalities of physicians. And you never know what you're going to get in terms of its mixture. And the best thing for a patient is if you have a very active patient, a very active patient who wants to participate very much in their care, and you have a very willing physician who wants to work with that patient. And that is what I call synergistic partnership. And that's really the best case scenario. But oftentimes, patients find themselves in a situation where they want to very much be part of their care, but their physicians are stuck in that traditional mindset. And that creates a series of potential conflicts. Some of these conflicts I had to endure back in 2016. It wasn't particularly comfortable for me or for the physician, but it was something that needed to be navigated, and it's something that I hear from patients from all corners of the world, where they're having trouble getting their physicians to really understand the need for precision medicine, to really understand the need of stepping outside that traditional approach of managing cancer and using the biology of their cancer to drive the treatments. So for the physicians in the room, I know I'm preaching to the converted here, but the goal, of course, is to work with patients, and for patients in the room is to work with their physicians in a collaborative way, in a respectful way, for the best possible outcome. And I've found that for me, really identifying physicians who are willing to work with me was really the key to my success so far. Part of that dynamic is the ability to share information, the ability to share research, because research really is the currency of modern cancer care. And if there's a way for patients and physicians to share collaboratively, I think that would create a great conduit in which to find shared strategies and shared approaches to care. So I put a little graphic here of the patient portal. And currently, there is no opportunity for research papers to be shared in either direction between the physician and the patient. And that is something that I see as a potential benefit where research papers, like brand new research, stuff that maybe the oncologist just haven't even seen yet, and the patient has, because the patient is focused on their disease. They are really devoted to their disease. And if they just came across a paper that was published like 2 days ago, and their oncologist hasn't, well, that could be really important information, really germane to the conversation around what treatment could look like down the road. So as an idea, I just thought that perhaps in the patient portal, which is becoming ubiquitous now across the landscape of care, that patients are going to be using AI and technology to focus and drill down on their disease. That's not going to go away. It's going to keep accelerating. So patients are going to be more armed. They're going to be more capable. They're going to be more informed around how to deal with their disease. So we need to find a way how to communicate with physicians in that way. Physicians need to accept that this is going to happen on a more constant basis. So we need to look for ways to deal with that. And the patient portal is just one idea. There's some ideas around how to get precision medicine more on the radar within the cancer community, and that is for new patients and their families, and even for physicians and the people and the patient advocate groups like TCF that I kind of thought about here. And it became clear to me over my travels over the years that really what's required is cross-functional teams that understand the challenges that are faced in the local environments of wherever they are. Like, I live part-time in Canada, part-time in the US. I see the system changes. I see the differences, and they're vast. So depending on where the patient is being treated, they will have to basically deal with challenges in that local market. So if precision medicine is going to be kind of thought about in that community, then there needs to be teams that are developed within that community that can help for that community. The point-of-care diagnostics, I think, is the next frontier of where we need to see cancer care really step up, specifically within the context of precision medicine. That there are now technologies that are available that can be used at the point of care, where if someone presents at the ER, they can potentially walk out of that ER experience with a firm diagnosis. That's the goal. Like someone walks into an ER today with symptoms, the first thing they're getting a CBC. That's the first thing. It's just ubiquitous. I see the vision of someone walking out with a CCC, complete cancer count. That's what I want to see. And the technology does exist today. The issue here is implementing at scale. The other thing is that it became clear that pharma, I've learned, when they apply for their approvals, they're doing it on an indication basis. And that leaves a lot of rare cancer patients kind of out in the cold. If they have a mutation that doesn't fall under one of those indications, they are out in the cold. They will not get that treatment, even though the drug is approved for a specific mutation, just not for that indication. So tumor agnostic applications from pharma, I think, need to increase. Rare cancer patients have the issue of not having the benefit of research, not having the benefit of having a group of people who have been identified that a particular drug could work for them. And oftentimes, the rare cancer patient is the trial themselves, that their mutations lend themselves to various drug combinations, and they become the trial. And I think we need to have more of those N-of-1 experiences within the rare cancer patient community, because the accumulation of data and information with those patients will only add to the body of evidence that is now being used more and more to make the case for cancer patients having a particular drug or a combination of drugs. And the last thing is continuing the use of social media networks, social media applications, both within the patient community and the professional community. There are some heavy hitters, perhaps, in the room who may or may not be in that last table, who are very high usage of social media influencers. And I think that influence needs to gain more and more momentum. More people need to do it, because the more people who are exposed, I think the better off rare cancer patients are going to be. So those are my thoughts, those are my insights, those are my call to actions. And I just wanted to thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, feel free. I'll be here all day. And thank you.